This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Samach. All learning for the month of Teves has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, as Chos Alias Nishama for Aryalei ben Yaakov. All the learning for today, the day of Chav Teves, an incredible yard site. B'siyata Deshemaya, the learning Shibri and Chos Alias Nishama for Yosef ben Nachman, Chayim Halevi, another close friend of the Daf, dedicating for his father Yosef ben נחמן Chayim Halevi b'siyata d'shmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura should elevate the neshama higher and higher in Gan Eden Shalmaila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod. We're holding at the Mishnah on the bottom of the Testament Beis. One line to add on is in the previous Gemara. It could be that we, at the end of this year, read it fast just to correct that the Gemara was going in the final line of the Mishnah that said, Im Hidgish Bershos, then Bala Soda Chayiv. That's why the Kasha was that it's not like Rebbe and the Gemara was Machalik they were talking about in the Bei Dari. And from this, we continue the Mishnah on the bottom of Nun Testament Beis, moving into the halachas of the mazik of Eish, fire. Says the Mishnah, Shayleach es habe'i Rabbi Acheresh Shayte v'kat. A line that we've had in the past. Someone sends a fire in the hands of a cheresh, shayte v'katan, a deaf mute, deranged or a minor. The halacha is pater b'dini adam v'chay b'dini shemai. Case 2, shalech b'yad b'keach. If you send it in the hands of a b'keach, one with das, a b'keach is chayv. Case 3 in the Mishnah, achrevias ar v'achrevias ha'itzim. One brings the fire and one brings the wood. What's the story? He says the Mishnah, Mivias ha'itzim chayiv. He that brought the wood is chayiv. Continues the Mishnah with one final case. The fourth case, achrevias ha'itzim v'achrevias ar. Then hamivias ar chayiv. Then the one who brings the ar is chayiv. So again, in the first case, first the fire was brought and then the wood was brought. He brought the wood is chayiv. Second case, one brought the wood and then one brought the fire. The one brought the fire is chayv. Obviously, honing in, that is the latter one. That is chayv, because without him, no damage could be had. Finally, concludes the Mishnah. If someone else comes and fans the flame, hamelabe chayiv, he that fanned it is chayiv. Libsa haruach. If the wind fanned the flame, then kulan piturim. Says the Gemara, going on the first case of Ashech Zabeira Biad, Cheresh Shaita Vekatan Amaresh Lakim Shum Meidech Hiskia, Laishanu Ella, Shemasar Lo Gacheles Veliba. You gave them a coal and they fanned it. The Cheresh Shaita Vekatan Avamasle Shaleves Chayiv. My time, what's the reason? Because of Maisav Kagarmalai. If you gave a shalheves, then he who sent it is chayiv because it's his action that has caused this. Rav Yochanan Amar, afilu masar lo shalheves, you're still pater. My taima savsa the cheresh garmalai. It is to control the actions of the cheresh that caused it, and therefore v'loy mechayiv ad sheyimsar lo, and the first person is not obligated until he gives him gavza, thorns, moving over to Samach Amud Aleph, Silsa, chips of wood, Shraga, a fire, then Tahuvadai Maisa Didei Garmu. Only in that case would the sender be chayiv, but the case of the Mishnah is not such, but rather you gave the coal and therefore he will be pater. We continue, Samach Amud Aleph, 2 lines down, quoting the Mishnah, Sheleach biyad pikeach. If we send in the hands of a pikeach, the hands of one with das, the halacha is ha-pikeach chayiv. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak man Tana Titani Liba. Who is the Tana that learned the case of Liba, the end of the Mishnah that said that if it is found, loy mishtavesh, it is not a mistake. Man Titani Liba loy mishtamish. So apparently there are 2 gersayis in the Mishnah. Says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, neither is a mistake, whether it's the word liba or niba. Explains the Gemara, man, the tani liba loy mishtamish. Tersiv belavas eish, as the pasuk says, in a flame, a lavas eish, so liba, fanning the fire. Umandetani niba loy mishamish, says the Gemara. Why? As the pasuk says, bayre niv sifasayim niba, that it is the speech of the lips was created also a form of fanning the flames. As when you move, I say better, because when you speak, there's air that comes out of your lips. So niba would be air coming out to fan the flames. And 7 lines down, we quote at the end of the Mishnah, Lives aruach kulan peturin. Tanu Rabbanon, explains the Gemara, quoting a Braisa, Liba ve'lives aruach. He fanned it, and the wind blew. So if it is fanning of the flame, it's enough. He is obligated. V'imlav potter, says the Gemara. So if the human intervention was enough on its own, you're chayiv. If not, you're potter. Ask the Gemara, Mai it should be like a case of winnowing, that you threw up the seeds in the air and the wind blew away the chaff. And therefore, and in that case, what is the halacha? The halacha is the one is chayiv, so it should be the same thing. Amar Abayach ma'eskinan kigon shaliba mitzad echad v'libsa ruach mitzad acher. Says Abaye, teretz number 1, he fanned one way, the wind fanned the other way, and that's the reason why he is not obligated. Rava Amar, teretz number 2, kon shaliba v'ruach mitzuya v'libsa haruach v'ruach she'inay mitzuya. He blew a regular wind, and then the wind blew a stronger wind, so the stronger wind takes over. Teretz number 3, Rav Zera Amar Kyondit Simra Tzimurei. He was just warming, he was just breathing on the fire. He didn't really fan it, and therefore he's potter. Rav Ashi Amar, a 4th teretz. When do we say throwing up in the wind? And the fanning of the wind is a Zayrez winnowing. Hanimila in Shabbos. Says Rav Ashi, Davka by Shabbos. Why? Because by Shabbos, the meleches machsheves asra taira. Therefore, if this was your kavana, even though it's aided by the wind, you are chayiv of halacha. But by asra damages grama ba'almu ugrama b'nizakin is pater. Continues the daf with the Mishnah about 10 lines from the white lines. Says the Mishnah, Shalech Zabeira, continuing sending the fire. And what happens? And the fire consumes, burns wood, stone or dirt. Chayiv. Shenemar, says the Torah, found thorns. Vinech al gadish, and eats grain. Oyakam, standing in my side of the field. Shalem yishalem hamaver sabeir. So says the pasuk explicitly that one is obligated for his fire burning these earthly possessions. Omar Rava comes along Rava and he asks, Lama li dekaz rachmana kaitzim gadish kama vitzadeh. The pasuk wrote 4 entities. The pasuk said kaitzim, thorns, gadish, a stack of grain, kama, standing grain, and sada, a field. Says Rava, why were all 4 necessary? Explains Rava, 4 lines from the white lines. Shrichi dikas rachmana kaitzim, thorns, havamina kaitzim udechayv rachmana. Mishum deshchiach eish kabayu, it's normal to get consumed by a fire. Shviach tabasha, it's normal to be negligent. Avokadish, standing grain. It's not normal for a fire to consume. It's not normal to be paisheya. Haloy. Because Rachman in the first white line, Kaddish, a stack of grain, Havamina Kaddish, Chai Rachman Misham, the Hefzin Mirubha. It's a large lawsuit. Aval Kaitzim on the second white line, Devzin Muadhu, Haloy. Kama, Lamli. So why does it say Kama, stalks of grain? Ma, Kama, Begaloy, it's revealed. Avkal, Begaloi, of course, coming to exclude the dinim of a Tamoy. But says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda, a shita that we've seen already, that holds what? The Machayev Anizke Tama, that by an Eish you're Chayev, even if the item is hidden. Beish, Kama, Lamli, why does it say Kama? The rabbis call Bale Kama. Comes to include, according to Rav Yehuda, anything that has some level of stature, trees, animals, etc. For Rabbanan, the rabbis call Bale Kama, Min Alun Avkulu, Me Oy HaKama. Rav Yehuda, Oimi Baile Lachalik, Rabban Lachalik, Manole Navkale, Me Oy Hasade. Rav Yehuda, I did because of Chwan Oya come because of Oya Sade. Sada Lamali. So finally, those are the first three in the Psukim. That is the Kaitzim, Gadish, and Kama. But ask the Gemara, Sada Lamli, why did the Pasuk have to say Sada has 6-7 lines into the white lines? Samach Amar Alpha explains the Gemara, you know why? La'asuye comes to include, La'asuye being the first word on the line. What does it come to include? Lichecha nirai v'nissecha avanav. Comes to include the field was scorched, the fire, scorched near a plowed field, or it singed sichsecha avanav, its stones. Says Gemara, Sadeh. I should have just said Sadeh. If you're chayiv for singeing the stone, if you're chayiv for consuming the plowed field, you should be chayiv for anything. Explains the Gemara, no, Srichi. Take us Sadeh just by itself, Avamina Mashas, Mashav Sadeh in. Midi Achini Loik, Mashlan had to write all the other entities. And that is the 4 words in the Pasuk coming to teach us the chiyuvim of Eish. Continues the Gemara once we're on the topic. Amar Rav Shimon bar Nachmani Amar Rav Yonis on Ein Parani Yisbal La'ilam Ela Bizman Sharashayim Ba'ilam. That there's only punishment when there are Rishayim in this world. And furthermore, says Rav Shimon Nachmani Amar Rav Yonis Ein Mischalas Matchelas Ela Min Atzadikim. Where do the punishments begin from? They begin from the tzadikim. Techila shenemar kitzeisei eish umatzai koitzim. Imatzai eish yatsa. When does the eish go out? V'zman shekoitzim mitzila. When there are thorns, aveiros inam techila, but only starts elamin ha tzadikim techila. How do I know? Shamanachal gadish v'achal gadish loy nemar el v'nechal gadish shenechal gadish kvar teaches us the psukim that is where it begins by the stack of grain, referring to the tzadikim. Continues the Gemara, 5 lines to the end of Samach Amar Aleph. Tani Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef learned, what is the meaning of the pasuk? This is moving on to Makas B'chayrais. V'atem loy teitzu ish v'pesach b'isai. Man should not leave his house ad bokir till the morning. Kiv shnasu rishos lamashches. Once the Satan had rishos to kill, inay mavchin bein tzadikim the rishayim, and therefore everyone had to stay indoors. Lo yidel shemaschlim and tzadikim techila shenemar. Continues the Gemara once we've took this left turn or right turn into the Haggadah. Ba'i Rav Yosef Kulei Hai Nami. All this as well. Rav Yosef cried La'ayin Daimin. It's like nothing. Kuli Hainami Layin Daimim, are the Sadiqim like nothing that they're going to get punished first? Asked Rav Yosef. Amar le'abayah tivutahu lekabayu. It is good for them. Why? So they don't have to see the tragedies that are going to happen afterwards. They'll say, Kibinei hara nesav sadik. Tzaddik. The tzaddik is gathered up because of the ra. Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav. Moving over to Samach Amid Veis. Le'ilam yachlis adam b'chitayv. A person should always enter when it's kitayv, when it's still light outside. V'yatzon, he should go out b'chitayv when it's light shenem. Harvatem lo titzu ish v'pesach b'isay ad boiker. Just like in Mitzrayim, they don't leave their houses until the morning. So too, one should try to only travel during daylight hours before it is dark or after it's ready to turn light. Tana Rabbanan says the Gemara, Devar be'ir, if there's a famine in this city, a plague, kanes raglecha, stay inside. Shenemar v'atem lo teitzu ish mipesach beisay ad boiker. V'aymer, and furthermore, lechami baba chaderecha, go into your rooms, v'seger t'lasecha, and close your doors, be'adecha upon you. V'aymer, and furthermore, mechutz taskil, says the pasuk, a third pasuk, tishakel cherev u'mechadarim ima, says the pasuk, on the outside is the sword, the malcham aves, but inside there will be no issue. Says the Gemara, what's this extra pasuk? Maybe you'll suggest only at night time by Makas B'chayris, one has to be careful. Avil be a mama. That during a plague, you should stay indoors. But then maybe this is only when there's no yira, there's no fear in the house. Maybe then, even when you go indoors, you're not going to save yourself. Then you also even but when there's yira in the home, then there's going to be no greater to go inside. Tashema says the Gemara, from here we learn the pasuk of the outside it will be the sword, the inside there will be fear. Even though indoors there's fear, outside there's the sword, and therefore there's still validity and still reason not to stay outside during a plague. Rava Amar says, Rava would seal the windows of he would seal the windows when time of Hashem's anger. Tanu Rabbanan continues the Gemara, moving over to a famine. We're talking about a dever, a plague. Now a famine, go inside Shnar V'Yirav Aretz. Why do we need this extra pasuk? Says the Gemara, because maybe you're going to think, maybe you only got to go inside when there's no risk to one's life. In the second place, and therefore Tashema says the pasuk, even when there's going to be a suffix nefashais, l'chu v'naflu al machane aram, l'chu. I'm sorry, we're having highlighting issues right now. One more time. Let us go now and throw ourselves into the Machna of Aram. If they will let us live, they'll let us live. If not, they will perish. Tanu Rabbanan. Continues the Gemara. More things that one could do during a plague. Dever, Be'ir, and during COVID, these Gemaras were commonly quoted when there's a plague, the caution one should take. Tanu Rabbanan, 5 lines from the medium-sized lines. Dever, Be'ir, there's a plague in the city. Don't walk in the middle of the road. Why? It's the middle of the road. The Kivan Diavali Reshusta. Once Malach Mavis has Rishas, Maski, Lehadei. Maski lahade, then the Satan, the Malchamavis goes out in the open. Shalom beer. When there's peace in the city, al yahalech v'sadei drachim, then don't walk in the sides of the road. Kima the last day Rishusa mechavi chavuye yumaski. The Malchamavis hides along the sides, and therefore when the Shalom you want to walk in the middle of the road, stay away from the Malchamavis. Taner Rabban in the first wide line, his first medium-sized line. Dever beer. Yikan is adam yachal basic in assess. Shem Malach HaMaves Mavgid Sham, because the Malach HaMaves puts his tools there. Machlish HaKelev. Hani immediately explains the Gemara. This is only where if the young children do not learn Chumash there, nor is there a minion. That's why there's a Saikana. But if either, we see the power of kids learning, there's either kids learning or a minion, then one does not have to be worried. Taner Rabbanan, Kalavim Baichem, we have dogs crying out, barking, Malchamavas Bali ear. Kalavim Isachakim. If you have dogs happy, Elio Anavi Bali ear. This is only where there's no female dog, because if there's a female dog, it could be the dogs are happy because of her, but if not, it's showing you the sign that Elio Anavi is in the city. Says the Gemara, on the fourth medium-sized line, moving back into our original discussion of Ish for a moment. What's going on here? One Mar Amrle Limamar Shmaitza. Umar Amrle, and the other one said Limamar Gadita. So Baz Ale Neymar Gadita opened his mouth to say, and I got it to Avloy Shavak. Mar, but the first one let him. The second one to let him. So he's a little bit stuck over here. Everyone knows this is comparable to Ladim Sheish L'Shtein Hashem, 2 wives. Achaz Yoldav, Achaz the king, 1 young, 1 old. The young wife picks out his white ears. Zakena, the elderly wife, Laketas Lo Shchayres, pulls out his black ears. If Zakarach, Mikan Umikan. It comes out that he's bald because each one's taking out the other hair. So he says the same thing over here. Each one is telling me to give a different type of drasha. I'm not able to do anything. Amr Lahem. So finally, Rav Nitzig Navcha says, Yachi, if this is the matziv that I can't do this, I can't do that. You know what? I'll make you both happy. I'll say something that is shaveh for both of you. Ki tzeitze eish. When a man goes out, and finds thorns, teitze me'atzma, says teitze means me'atzma, he goes out on his own. But then the pasuk is shalim shalma ma'aver as a meira. Pasuk says one who lights the fire should play. So what's going on? Was it by himself, or is there another person involved? Explains the Gemara, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, says Hashem, Ali l'sham yisabeira shehivarti. Says Hashem, I'm going to pay for the fire that I made. Ani itzati eish b'tzion. I lit a fire in Sion by the base of Midrash. Now Rav Yitzchak eish b'tzion v'tchanlas yisaydei, and it consumed the foundation. But he also lived noisa be'eish. It says Hashem, lost a lava. I'm going to build the base of Midrash with fire. Shenemar v'ni e'elecha Chayim eish saviv l'chavoid eya b'seicha, and I'm going to do it l'chavoid to be amidst you. And finally, Shemaitza. What's the halachic angle? Pasuk and Kasam B'nizkei Maman v'Sayim B'nizkei Gov L'Omer Lecha, that what Ishai Misham Chitzav, a tremendous machlekes that we're getting involved in. But that's why the pasuk begins B'nizkei Maman, to hone in on that detail. And one more story dealing with damages, as we have in Nach, Vayisav David, and David was desiring Vayomer, and he said, Mi ashkini mayim, who is going to give me water? Mibar Beis Lachem, for the well in Beis Lachem Asher B'Shar, that is in the gate. Vayivku Shleishas Hagibarim Mechla Pelishtim, so 3 mighty men broke into the camp of the Pelishtim. Vayishavu Mayim Mibar, excuse me, Vayishavu Mayim Mibar Beis Lachem Asher B'Shar, so he all went to draw water for David HaMelech. Says the Gemara, what exactly was David asking? Amar Rav Nachman Tama B'Eish Kami Baile. It wasn't just merely asking for a cup of water. You know what was the depth of David HaMelech's question? He was asking what is the status of something that is hidden. And the Sanhedrin answered what they answered him, that they would have to pay for the hidden items. Rav Huna Amar, a second shot of what's going on over here. Gedishim Tisairim Di Yisrael Havu, says Rav Huna, there were stacks of barley belonging to the Yidden. The Have Mitamri Pelishtim Behu, the Pelishtim were hiding inside these stacks of barley. David HaMelech wanted to light the barley on fire to kill the enemy. David HaMelech was asking, Maula Atzel, can we save oneself through destroying someone else's property? The Sanhedrin responded, you're not allowed to save yourself through destroying someone else's property. David HaMelech, you're the king. The king is allowed to do what he wants. You're allowed to make a road on your own. Therefore, you're allowed to destroy someone else's property, even if it's only for yourself. Rabbanan v'Teimer Rava Bar Mari gives a third shot. Amru Kedisha this iron to Israel. The barley was belonging to the Yidden Havu. Kedisha the Adashim Pelishtim, and the Adashim and the lentils were belonging to the Pelishtim. Kambayilei, so David HaMelech's kasha. Ma'o lital Kedisha shall iron to Israel. Litin lefnei be'antai. Why? Amanas l'shalem Kedishim shall Adashim the Pelishtim. David HaMelech's kasha was, can they take the barley that was owned by the Yidden and give it to the animals, and they'll pay them back with the lentils owned by the Pelishtim? And on this, the Sanhedrin responded, Chavol Yoshev Rasha Gizili Yishal. And the wicked person returns a pledge and he pays for that which he stole. What do we dash from here? It's true, you're going to pay back. But Rasha, you have a din about Rasha. But again, finally, Ata Melech David HaMelech Ata Melech Paris Lasas Laderech Lein Mechem Biyadai. So you, David HaMelech, are allowed to do it. Take matters in your own hands, as a king is allowed. We'll stop over here, and the next year we'll begin the shir by discussing the differences between these terutzim. Siyata Dishmaya.